book weather speaks, his voice like a stream, through valleys of sorrow, through Ella's dream. The candles burn low, the night stretches wide, a tale of a princess, a love she can't hide. Oh, Ella, her heart's in a cage, bound by a crown and her father's rage. She waits for the dawn, for the stars above. Will someone come? Will someone bring love? Her suitors brought gold, their banners held high, but love can't be bought, though many may try. The king in his pride, he turned them away. Ella still waits for her own chosen day. Through the book's worn pages, the story does flow. The book feather whispers what only he knows. Oh, Ella, her heart's in a cage, bound by a crown and her father's rage. She waits for the dawn, for the stars above. Will someone come? Will someone bring love? The moon hears her cries, the wind feels her tears. The forest stands witness to all of her fears. The book feather pauses, the room holds its breath. Each word carries hope, each word fights her death. The book weather speaks, his voice like a stream, through valleys of sorrow, through Ella's dream. The candles burn low, the night stretches wide, a tale of a princess, a love she can't hide. Oh, Ella, her heart's in a cage, bound by a crown and her father's rage. She waits for the dawn, for the stars above. Will someone come? Will someone bring love? Her suitors brought gold, their banners held high, but love can't be bought, though many may try. The king in his pride, he turned them away. Ella still waits for her own chosen day. Through the book's worn pages, the story does flow. The book whether whispers what only he knows. Oh, Ella, her heart's in a cage, bound by a crown and her father's rage. She waits for the dawn, for the stars above. Will someone come?
He sat for another few minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Then discreetly checked his watch again. Time seemed to have slowed down. Giggity. All right.
Should have waited and called in again.
Ow! My head just came off.
Seems quiet. Too quiet.
It felt more like 25 minutes to have passed. Not 5!
I'm Batman. Gotham is never safe without me.
Hey, Red, does this hurt? Oh! Okay, the best
Someone
part is...
reinforce me, please. Red thought he was fancy.
What time is it? It's 7 o'clock. Okay, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hunger gnawed at him. You can attach towers? Shut up. I've been trying to practice my glamoring. Look at me. Ooh.
Impromptu performance this evening, which I must say was indeed a welcome distraction.
And he decided that if she allowed him to use the bathroom to pee, then she probably wouldn't stop him from using the kitchen.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. You're very kind. This is going to be funny.
Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday. How's everybody doing? Renato? I see you there. Stealing first place for yourself. Again. Don't think we haven't noticed. Because we have. Oh dear. Get off my phone. Jeepers. Some of my lights didn't turn on, so I'm gonna do it myself. Let's see. Steady. Those are on. Okay. All good. It didn't let you click it? Well, I see in my feed that Renato1848 redeemed first place. And then you typed mwahahahaha. Ha. But then you also said, why is number 1 not working? I thought you were just being silly. But it worked. You got it. Amlas, good evening. Yes, this book, written by Jos Saunders, Jos Saunders, is going to be way different compared to the last book. Like, way different. And that's all I can say. I will obviously read the back. I mean, we're doing things a little bit differently right now because normally I would be like, okay, here's what's coming up next, and let's get ready for that and read the back. And we just didn't do that. And essentially what got me to that conclusion was I was worried, which this is the first time, but I was worried that if I kept going, at some point Twitch would have been like, look, man. And I didn't want to get a slap on the wrist, or the hand, or the butt, or anywhere, really, from Twitch. So I emailed her and I said, look, I appreciate, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep going. And I told her why with the whole Twitch stuff, and she totally understood. She was very cool about it. She appreciated that I bought her copy, bought a copy. Yeah. Like, NSFW stories are fine, but that one was like, let's shine a spotlight from space, NSFW. So, that's why we're switching books immediately. So there you go. Stunt Mama's Mama, hello, how are you? Oh, and Renato redeemed a book bonk. Thankfully, this book is not as hard-backed or, all that stuff, so it shouldn't hurt that much. It's not too bad. That wasn't too bad. No spice? I have no idea. I mean, there might be some romance, but I really don't know. I don't know. Because I don't read ahead. So there. A Fabergé egg just sold for a cool 30 million. I don't understand. Like, it's a fancy looking egg. I don't get it. Could probably have one 3D printed for you. Sell it to you for 10 million. Hell of a discount. Hopefully you were able to enjoy the new Starting Soon video that I put together today. I figured I would get into the theme. Now, if you heard the music when the video was playing, if you were listening to the music, I had that song written specifically about reading this book. Because Ella, spelt A-E-L-L-A, is the princess in this story. She is the gal right there. That's the princess. So I figured, considering this was like a specific book we're going to be reading for a little while, I might as well come up with a song, Starting Soon song, that kind of correlated. Obviously, I couldn't get into specifics because I don't know what the specifics are, other than what's on the back. And of course, castle puzzle, because, looks like a castle right here. If you do exclamation point kingdom, you can find out more about this book. But I am going to real quick read the back to you. You love the music? I'm so glad. I kind of liked it too, because I tested a few different versions, and that one was the best one. All right, so the back says, Princess Ella knows she can't marry for love. She has to marry to keep peace and prosperity between kingdoms, and accepts her father's wishes. Little does she know, her chosen husband, Prince Ovander, has secrets. Secrets big enough to put her life in danger. And his mother, the queen, will do anything to save her kingdom. Left in the abandoned forest, Ella knows she has to survive to take back what is hers. But who is this mysterious person who rescues her? Why is he always hiding? Has he got secrets too? Only time will tell.
Oh my
Fog.
god, oh my god, oh my god. Kay's here. Kay's here. Kay is here. Kay is in my stream. Kay's here. Oh my god. Kay. Hi, Kay. Hi. Okay, stay calm. Breathe. Hi, Kay.
Hello, Kay. Welcome back. Oh, which reminds me, it's December. So, that means I'm going to do it on good old, you know, that paper and pen concept that we used to do a few years back. Till I rig up something more specific. Marble races, I'm gonna put your points on paper. Just finished my show after 2 weeks off. Ooh. Yawn count. I haven't yawned yet. Don't talk about it. All right. Marble Grand Prix points. Let's see. How should I kind of table this? There's 16 races. And then I'll just put names of people who, you know, get points. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why did I double space this? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All right, so gonna record them on here. Cat, hello. We're just getting ready to record points for the marble races because it is December, and at the end of the month, whoever has the most points gets a prize. And I figured to keep it simple, obviously we're only going to count who's on the podium. First place gets 3 points, second place gets 2 points, third place gets 1 point. We're going to keep it simple. And I won't write everyone's names down. I'm only going to write people's names down as they show up on the podium. I've got a ruler so I can keep myself organized, because I'm telling you right now, folks, organization is paramount. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Helps if I can draw a straight line, though. Okay. Good to go. I still use pen and paper. Nothing wrong with that. This is true, but I would like to eventually make it electronic and then throw it up on the screen so y'all can see it. Then you'll know who's in the running and who isn't. All right, I need a bookmark. I don't need the spicy bookmark. So we have an option here of like the confetti one. Once Upon a Crime. I think we used Once Upon a Crime last time. And even though there will be fictitiousness, we'll go with the confetti. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about? Thursday will be Helldivers. I would have gone back to Roadcraft, but there's a new War Bond that just came out today, which I already have, and it looks really fun. So we got to earn some medals to unlock stuff, and the only way to do that is to play. So Thursday, Helldivers. I already have one of the items from Helldivers, and it's one of those guard dogs, the little drone that follows me around. This one breathes fire. It's going to be epically dangerous. All right. Why is the marbles game way up there? I don't remember putting it there. But that's fine. I'll just move it. I was trying not to cover up the scenes that are going to be scrolling through. They're all castle-ish themed. Okay. Is there anything else I need to do? I need to change the speed, that's for sure. They're going by way too fast. They need to add a purple marble. I hear you. I hear you. There probably is one. I just haven't purchased it. Let's make it a little bit bigger. It's growing. Is that better? Oh my god, it's Rexter. Hi, Recky Poo. And there's a Verda cat in here. Hi, Verda. You're just in time. We're about to start our brand new book. Let me throw the link in chat so you guys can take a look-see. Kingdom. Oh. Should probably double check that I've made an amazing cup of tea. The Adventures of At the Bookfather. I don't know if that would be a very interesting read, though, because I just mostly work all the time. Spot on. Delicious. Okay. Now remember, I am not going to join these races because that would mess up the point system. Only you guys can join the races, and I will record who gets first, second, and third. And through the month, I will tally up your points, and we will go from there. All right, while that's loading, I am going to crease open the first page. You missed the ending of the last. I'll have to catch and replay, but ooh, finally got to be here for the start of a book. Well, actually, Verda, we ended the other book early. Very early, actually, just because the spiciness was probably too spicy for Twitch. I mean, one of the chapters we read was dedicated entirely to a threesome with details. all the details. So, just saying. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so we've got the title page, Destiny of a Broken Kingdom. We have acknowledgements, and then it just jumps straight into chapter 1. No other in-betweens. And of course, we've got little inserts of her other reads in the back. Let's see. We've got Zerenice the Witch Cat, which we have read. We've got Hide and Seek, which we have read. The Whispering Magpies, which we have read. Pomegranate Tears, also read. But then there's also Celine's Highland Christmas, which we have not read. And Through My Eyes and Other Short Stories, which we have not read. But, I mean, we've read most of them. So, and then this will be added to that list. Oh yeah, the Witch Cat book. That was a good book. It was a good story. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking time out of your week to hang out with me and listen to a story. Sit back, relax, and I will read to you. Chapter 1. You're trembling, my lady. Of course she was trembling. She'd left her kingdom of beaches for this kingdom in the forest. What if they ever found out she was a mermaid? Ayla smoothed down her crimson brocade gown edged with gold, its touch soft on her hands. It had taken the royal dressmaker 6 months to make her dress, and the princess was proud to wear it. The sound of royal trumpets, mingled with excited shouting, reached her ears. I can read. We're only on the first page. It's fine. The fragrance of dill with its citrus undertones filled the air as busy maids rushed around the large room, preparing the bouquet. Everyone knew dill was a well-known plant to fend off evil spirits and bad luck. And luck was what Ayla needed. It was her wedding day. Only God knew how often she dreamt of this special day, when she would marry the love of her life and have a castle of her own to run. That, however, wasn't to be. Her father, the king of Syria, had chosen her husband, like all kings did. They married their sons and daughters to other royal families to form alliances, which was a way of keeping war at bay. And Ayla had agreed to a union with the Prince of Lusania, all for the sake of prosperity. Hello, Usadeth, aka Ali. Wait, something is wrong? What is wrong? And everything seems fine. Oh, I see. Okay. Aggressive reading. Yes. You didn't have the right tone. Yeah, well, I mean, the book just started, so I don't know what the tone is yet, other than whatever comes out of my mouth. But, you know, we could try aggressive. I don't think our author, Jos Saunders, knows about this yet, so as she's watching this video, people might change my voice, and one of the newer ones is to have an aggressive reading. This is not the... No, it's not. This is a different book. I had to make a decision to stop that one. Oh, before I get aggressive, let us mark down our first winner. So we got Catbox, then Amlas, and then Verda. Good job, everybody. I may need someone to do this for me. But we'll see how it goes. Book bunk. Ow, thank you. Next map. All right, aggressive reading. Her father, the king of Syria, had chosen her. Wait, I already read that part. When her father had mentioned Prince Ovander, dozens of questions had shot to mind. Would she make him happy? Would she grow to love him? According to her father, love had nothing to do with wedlock. Marriages were a duty to acquire land and peace. Land and peace. Hadn't her parents wed for the same reasons? Apparently, King Sayer had married her mother, a beautiful mermaid, from what Ayla...
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part.
Thank you so much. I don't know why that doubles, but I don't care. You're doing your part too, are you though? Okay. We're gonna have your monthly review here soon and talk about some things. Apparently, King Sayer had married her mother, a beautiful mermaid from what Ayla had been told, when her mother had begged him to. The sea folk were becoming extinct, and her mother believed that by uniting a person of the land with her, a person of the sea, her species would continue through her children. And the king, in doing so, would acquire the precious gems that belonged to the merfolk. It had been the first time the kingdom of the sea had united with the kingdom of the land, that a human had wed a mermaid. The outcome had been tragic. Although her mother had gained human form on land, she hadn't been able to survive childbirth. And Ayla had been brought up by her father's royal household on land. Her nursemaid and wet nurse had become her mothers, so to speak, and she loved them dearly. With no other siblings, King Sayer had brought her up like a son, explaining all she needed to know about ruling a kingdom. And now, by wedding Prince Ovander, she would be associated with a second one. It's time to go, the maid called Sybil said as she added the finishing touches to Ayla's headdress. It was the same one her mother had worn when she'd wed the king in Sayer's castle chapel. A beautiful golden band set with sapphires and topaz. It sat straight on her head, holding down the pure white silk veil covering her hair. The fine masterpiece highlighted her golden skin. And Allie needs a snack. Ayla put on a weak smile and studied the young girl who Queen Thalia, the prince's mother, had appointed to be her personal maid. Verticats. Well done. Yes, recording these wins is going to be a bit of a challenge. Verda. Allie. and cat. Well done. Sybil couldn't be much older than herself, maybe a couple of years at most. No more than 20 years old for sure. The maid's ebony hair, plaited in 2 braids with emerald ribbon, hung loose on her shoulders. Her gown matched the color of the ribbons and her beautifully shaped eyes. "I'd like you to accompany me downstairs," Ayla said, turning to observe her reflection in the Psyche mirror. "It'll be an honor, my lady," Sybil replied. With hesitant steps, Ayla left the bridal suite that had been prepared for her in the prince's castle. She'd been told the castle had a huge kitchen with storage rooms for provisions. 3 stories of rooms and chambers led off from a spiral stairway, not to mention the castle's tall tower, which enabled the guards to see across the surrounding forest. Taking a deep breath, and with both hands gripping her raised gown, Ayla took her time and followed Sybil down the stairwell. The stone steps leading to the ground floor were treacherously uneven, and it wouldn't do for her to fall. Or anybody, for that matter. But especially the bride. Good heavens, no. The September sun shone down as she left the castle, accentuating the gold on her crown. With a slow wish of her gown, with a slow swish of her gown, she turned to her maid. "Thank you." "At your service, my lady. I'll be waiting to prepare you for the wedding night." Sybil's voice came out in a whisper. King Sayer waited nearby for his daughter. Clothed in corn harvest gold with his purple cloak resting on his shoulders, the 50-year-old monarch brushed his forefinger over his smoky gray beard. His royal dressmaker had created a new tunic to cover his roundish figure. The light color suited him, accentuating his weather-worn features. He welcomed her with a quick peck on the cheek. "How are you, my dear?" "A little nervous." "I know it's a lot to ask of an 18-year-old, but you're older than most when they wed." Ayla bit the inside of her cheek. "It's just, I don't know what to expect." "Prince Ovander is a fine man," her father replied, "and our kingdom will gain fertile lands to grow and share crops, while Lusania will have access to our port for those crops to be sent overseas. Besides, would I have chosen someone unworthy of my little princess?" Ayla knew it would be a win-win situation and hadn't objected to the union, but still. She tucked her hand in the crook of the King Sayer's arm and leaned her head onto his shoulder. Of course, her father would have chosen someone fitting for her, but he couldn't choose character. Her cousin, Alex, had been married off to the perfect man, a rich noble with plenty of farmland and merchandise in his control, but he only entered her chambers to do his duty. The rest of the time he spent hunting with his friends. His duty. Many questions flew through Ayla's mind while she crossed the long courtyard to the castle's chapel. Dealing with servants and the running of the household was no secret to her, but no one had explained how to keep a husband happy and bear him children. The very thought of it made her shudder. Murmuring nearby brought her out of her thoughts. A few members of the royal household had gathered in the courtyard to catch a glimpse of the prince's future wife, exclaiming how beautiful she appeared. Oh, so beautiful. Look at her. She's magnificent. Look at her dress. Oh, my goodness, her hair. You know, that kind of thing. Aelia had inherited her mother's features. Hair the color of sea foam, eyes the color of fish scales, yet she had her father's olive skin. That had been a blessing. She didn't have to cover up in the sun. Oh, lucky you. I'm pretty sure the sun hunts me down and dares me to bearskin. Do it, I dare ya. Sizzle, sizzle. The chapel's interior glowed with burning candles. Aelia's satin slippers took silent steps on the cold stone floor. The high, arched windows loomed above, leading the way to the altar. The nose-tickling smell of incense mingled with the scent of meadowsweet. From the inner sanctum, angelic voices floated through the air, accompanying her to her destiny. She only hoped it wasn't a golden prison. She mumbled a quick prayer to the Lord, asking him to bless her marriage. As Kay won the next race. Well done, Kay. Oh, and that's easy. All right. So we got Kay. Stunt Mama's mama. And Cat. What a lovely trio of winners. Next map. The brick. Just another brick in the marble. Boom, boom, boom. 60 seconds on the clock. Good luck. Should also keep an eye on the clock for ads. All right. Here we go. She was gaining a new status and wanted to please her husband in her role as his wife. Blades of sunlight filtered through the stained glass windows, bathing the aisle and pews in a spectrum of colors. Butterflies that had remained dormant in the pit of her stomach decided to awaken. Aelia couldn't believe the time had come to leave her home and begin a new life. She approached the altar, taking in large lungfuls of air to calm her heart. A richly dressed priest stood with open arms, his purple... Just had to make sure I was going to say this right. His purple ecclesiastical garment and golden stole glowing in the candlelight. Her future husband stood with his back to her, exceptionally tall with broad shoulders. Elegant in his wedding attire, the prince's blue velvet tunic fell to his knees. A metalwork belt hung low on his hips, no doubt holding a dagger with jewels on its hilt. Under his crown, dark locks rested on the prince's shoulders, and a sigh escaped her mouth. The tall stranger turned and fixed his gaze onto her, his dark eyes wandering over her body. A few steps separated her from his outstretched hand. She took it and stood by him. His touch was warm and soft when he squeezed her fingers. Ayla raised her head and caught a whisper of a smile on his face. A face she could come to like. And for the first time since her marriage had been announced, she believed she could be happy with this man. They both pronounced their wedding vows, binding the ceremony when the prince slid a band of gold onto her finger. A ring encrusted with emeralds and diamonds. The prince held her trembling hand with his firm fingers, and at that very moment, Aelia knew things would be fine between them. she listened to the ceremony, imagining her life as Ovander's wife, roaming the kingdom together on horseback, visiting neighboring villages, debating political aspects, just as she did with her father back in Syria. With the ceremony over, Ovander kissed his wife briefly on the forehead before swinging on his heels and striding out of the church. Don't you usually take her with you? Isn't that that's how we did it. I mean, we went together. Just saying. Amlas. Good job. And then Kay. And the stunt mama's mama. Well done. Yes, together doesn't bode well for the start of a marriage. Not really. No. I almost clicked join then. That would have been terrible. Right. Aelia gazed around in search of her father and caught a twitch in the old man's left cheek. The prince had only just slipped the ring on her finger. Was he already having regrets? He didn't appear happy with this marriage of convenience. That said, he could have made an effort to walk out of the church with her. King Lucan and Queen Thalia walking behind their son down the aisle. Chin high, the queen gazed at the congregation with her gray eyes, no emotion on her thin lips. The king wrapped his crimson cloak around himself and fell in step with his wife, leaning heavily on his walking stick. Aelia took her father's outstretched hand, and side by side they walked to the chapel's door. Such a beautiful day for a wedding, his father said, patting her daughter's hand. And with the sealing of this marriage, both kingdoms will benefit. Ayla rolled her wedding ring around her finger with her thumb. The past hour had changed her from a carefree young maiden to a responsible princess. She had exchanged her vows, had agreed to be Prince Ovander's wife, and this castle built of grey stone slabs would be her home. With its imposing tower and sharp-cut ramparts, it could have been part of the fairy tale her nursemaid used to tell her. The one where the wicked ogre lived. Fingers crossed the people living here would be a little more cheerful than the building itself. She snapped out of her thoughts and nodded at the queen. Something about the woman's pursed lips made Aelia uneasy. Or could it be the fact that whenever her mother-in-law and Aelia could call her that now, deigned to smile, it never quite reached her lips. Reached her lips? Reached her eyes. I'm using mine, I swear. The young bride realized... We're going to take this moment to sip some tea. This always happens, though. Every time I switch from one book to another, it takes, like, the first couple of chapters to get my brain in step with the next book's writing style. Next author's writing style. You know, I know words can be hard, but I'm going to start saying that saying words in the correct order are hard. That is some smooth tea, though. I don't know if it was just the right amount of milk to kind of balance it out, but man, it just feels... It feels like velvet. Oh, look at that. We have a winner. Saying Spanish words is really hard. I'll believe you. Werther, well done. And then K. And Amlas. Next map. The Boomerang. Good luck. Right. Where were we? Yes. It never quite reached her eyes. The young bride released her father's arm to join the prince. She was his wife now, and the family had accepted her. Well, maybe not Ovander. The king and queen approached just as Aelia placed her hand on the prince's arm. He shook her off with such force that the young woman remained speechless. You promised, dear son. Queen Thalia's eyes deepened to match the color of the slate-gray gown. The prince let out an exaggerated sigh and gave a curt nod of the head. Thank you, his mother finished on a lighter note. Aelia frowned. Whatever Ovander had promised, he didn't look in the least bit pleased. King Lucan opened his mouth to say something, only to be stopped by the queen holding up a hand. Something like that. Putting the babies to bed. Apologies. No worries. Make sure they sleep well. Ayla had heard that his wife did most of the talking, decision-making even, and her husband agreed with her orders. Now, the queen began, turning to Aelia's father, I believe we have business to attend to, documents to sign. Let us leave the newlyweds to wander the grounds. I think he is not into her. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you would get that out of what we've read so far. I think he's absolutely smitten with her, myself. Like match made in heaven. Or you could be absolutely right. She kept a polite expression on her face, but no warmth shone in her eyes. Aelia's father walked with the royal couple across the courtyard. The prince turned to his bride. Shall we? Aelia raised her skirts and hurried after him around the well to the herb garden, because herb has an H in it. Herb. Like her own garden back home, it was divided into sections, each dedicated to a specific type of herb. Those for cooking and those for healing. Nice potage garden, Ayla said, for want of something interesting to say once she'd caught up with him. Cat box. Look at you, taking a win on race 6. Stunt Mama's mama, taking second, and Verta Cat.
Hi, Cat here. I'm just gonna sit in my box and watch the stream, if that's okay.
That is perfectly fine. Please do. Save room for me afterwards, please. Next, race the circuit. I almost clicked joined again. I'm gonna have to get out of that habit. So, nice potage garden, Ayla said, for want of something interesting to say once she'd caught up with him. Well observed. Ayla scanned the environment. Must take a lot of time to cultivate. Evander drew in breath and released it noisily. I should imagine so. Ayla stared at her husband's pinched expression. Maybe he was used to... Maybe he was used to walking around in silence. With no other siblings, he'd never had anyone his age to talk to. You're not sorry at all. Making me jump like that. He simply needed a little gentle coaxing. She'd take it slowly with him. Are you not very talkative? She dared ask. Evander snorted. I was always taught that if you didn't have anything interesting to say, then remain silent. Disappointed by his last words, Ayla trudged behind her husband to the lake where a couple of swans glided across the water surface, their snow-white wings capturing the sun's bright beams. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Ayla exclaimed. Absolutely, Prince replied, staring beyond the lake. Ayla glimpsed movement in the trees. What are you looking at? Why, the swans, of course. Ayla caught the trace of a smile on his face. Evander hadn't been looking at the birds. He'd been looking at something, or someone, on the other side of the water. Bench press? Very good. Couple of pages and the chapter will be over. We'll do them then, because I'll need to run ads as well, so it'll be wonderful. And I actually need to add that camera. Crap, I forgot. We'll figure it out. I've had enough walking, he said, the gleam in his dark eyes suddenly disappearing. Let's return. Ayla shook her head and tagged behind him back to the castle. What a quick change of personalities. Affectionate one minute, like when he'd first set eyes on her in the chapel. Sarcastic the next. Not surprising with a mother like Thalia. Ayla tried to imagine herself in his shoes. How would she behave if she had the queen for a mother? A tiny lump formed in the back of her throat. She'd have to be patient. Give him time to warm to her. Forgive his cold behavior. And give him the love he'd missed out with his mother. My cat is invested in the marble races, just staring at the monitor. Oh, good. They turned around the stables and into the courtyard. Who's that? Aelia asked, pointing to a man standing by the stable door. Evander turned and chuckled. Bodis, my father's most trusted huntsman. Ayla detected a slight nod of the man's head. He stood like a soldier, both hands on the hilt of his sword, his eyes as dark as his clothing, fixed on a point ahead. He saved the king's life in battle once, Evander continued, his voice full of pride. He's our most loyal servitor. Whenever my mother has an important mission, she calls for him. Ayla kept that in mind, hoping their paths would never cross. Arriving in front of the castle's main door, Ayla gazed to the top of the imposing tower. It rose high above the rest of the building, a solid rock, and the strong point of the castle. Verda winning again. I'll grab that in a minute. She came to a halt and gripped the prince's arm. There's someone moving at the top of the tower. I doubt it, the prince replied, removing her hand. The sun is blinding when you look straight at it. Aelia rubbed her hand where the prince had squeezed it tight, positive she had seen a figure raising a black cloak in the air. She shielded her pale blue eyes from the sun when a murder of crows took flight over the tower. They flew over the couple, their inky wings casting a shadow over their faces. Ayla quickly made the sign of the cross. What's wrong? Ovander asked. The crows. What about them? Ayla stared at her husband. Surely you know crows are a bad omen, a sign of death? Are they? The prince's lips curled back. I wonder who's going to die. A gleam of something unpleasant lurked in his eyes, and Ayla swallowed hard. She didn't like the strange look on his face, nor the tone of his voice, an exact replica of the queen's. Why do you say that? She managed to ask. Evander waved her question away and marched to the castle, leaving the young woman staring after him, a cold shiver creeping down her back. Ayla looked back at the tower, a tall, silent mass. What secrets was it hiding? Because no matter what excuse the prince had given, she had seen someone up there. And that concludes the very first chapter of Destiny of a Broken Kingdom. Run, she has nowhere to run to. All right, let me record the winners of race number 7. Verda. Stunt Mama's Mama. And Kay. All right. Now, Kay, kill him. If only it were that easy. Let's see about adding a new camera, because I completely forgot to do that. It should still be plugged in. Hey, there it is, in the nice dark room. And then, yeah, we'll just put that right here. Do you do marble races on Thursday? I can't remember. Typically, no, because we're playing a game and I'm not, so no. Usually just Sundays and Tuesdays. Let's see. Ads are going to start in like 2 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll get those running. I'll go use the bench press. And then I'll come back. Okay, cool. I don't usually hang on Thursdays. Yeah, fine. Be that way. No, I'm just kidding. I love it when you're here. All right. Ads are going. I'll go bench press. You'll be able to watch. Alrighty. We still have 10 seconds of ads left. Very good. You're on the same time as your bestie is? Well, yeah, it's a thing. Good job. Thank you. I haven't used the bench in a while, so I'm actually very glad you redeemed it. Because I need to do better. So, are we enjoying the story so far? I think I'm missing one bottom piece of the puzzle, and it's driving me insane. I can't find it. According to my view, you're missing a few bottom pieces. Unless you're talking about these two going together, and then that's it. That makes the match. Which is probably what you're talking about. So perhaps you're not missing a lot of bottom pieces. And you really are just missing... I helped with a side piece. There. Now I can say I helped. Yes, pretty good so far. Excellent. Phoenix, good evening. And Purple, hello. Phoenix and Purple, we just finished the first chapter. I did some... the bench press was redeemed, so I just did that. Now we're going to do chapter 2. You're also just blind? Well, I understand. I am too sometimes. Can't stay for long tonight, but I want to say hi. That's okay. Thank you for saying hi. We have started collecting names for points for the marble races, just so you know. So for the month of December, I capture who's first, second, and third, and then tally up the points, and whoever has the most is going to get a prize. A used handkerchief. So yeah. Oh, you're gonna do a late night stream? That's cool. Well, let's get you a quick shout out here. And helps if I can use the right buttons. For those of you that don't know, or need a quick reminder, this bookmark and the other ones like it were made by Verticat. All right. Let's crack on, shall we? Of course, my pleasure. Chapter 2 is on page 13. Now remember, there is no table of contents. There's no names to the chapters. It's just literally the number. Gotta say, I just downloaded Marbles on stream, and the interface definitely confused me. Should work fine if I actually stream, though. Yeah, it took me a second to get used to as well. But you'll get there. You'll get there. Just gotta play with it a couple times. All right, chapter 2. With Evander at her side, Ayla passed the guard standing at the entrance to the banquet hall on the first floor of the castle. They simply walked like two strangers, which, in a way, they were. The princess's eyes widened upon seeing the size of the well-lit room with its solid stone pillars holding up the beautiful beam ceiling. Long, heavy tapestries portraying hunting scenes along the heraldic flags adorned the high walls along with weapons and hunting trophies. Rushes and sprinkled herbs covered the timber floor. Each step crushed the herbs, sending a fragrance of lavender and mint in the air. Can you imagine having, like, that kind of stuff just all around your house? Like, scented citrus and lavender, and every time you walked, just scent. It'd be such a frickin' mess. But anyway, that's castle life for you. Long tables with benches sat on either side of the hall. Adjacent on the top table where King Lucan and Queen Thalia sat on thrones. Another seat had been placed near the royal couple for Ayla's father. The blazing fire in the stone hearth warmed the room. Nearby, several pages stood, ready to serve food and drink. Musicians played in the minstrel's gallery. Maybe this was like in ye old times of illness where everyone is hide the sense of disease. Maybe. I mean, we don't actually have at least at the moment, an idea of what the year might be in this story. But, yeah. I could either see it being that, or just the fact that they are royalty and they can afford to have all these fancy spices, and therefore they can just throw them on the ground for people to walk on. Marvelous. Oh, the race is already over. Crikey, that was quick. Kay, taking the race by storm. And then Verda in second. And Stunt Mama's Mama in third. Congratulations. Next map. Totally tubular, man. All right. You know, I could have swore I was going to make the laps 4, not 3, but oh well. Maybe next time. Excited chattering stopped, and complete silence fell over the room when the bride and groom headed for their seats next to the king and queen. 2 slightly less elaborated thrones displaying their status as prince and princess. Don't they make a wonderful couple? Ayla overheard someone say. It won't last, another replied. Ayla turned and frowned at a middle-aged woman talking to a small group of invitees. Was she a member of the royal family? Or a close friend? Even so, what right had she to say that? Chin raised, Ayla God, what was that? Purple, you scared the crap out of me. Thank you for the 100 bits. That's very kind of you. Christine! Hello. That noise literally made me jump. Where was I? Oh, yes. Chin raised. Ayla continued walking. She continued walking, yet her mind couldn't shake off that last comment. She could only do her best to make the union work for the good of both their kingdoms, even if no love existed between them yet. That could change over time. They could build a strong, solid relationship as they worked together. And now Kay wants me to read like Arnold. Okay. That's what she'd hoped. Oh my god. Verda, thank you for the sub. For 3 months in a row as well. Holy crap. Thank you very much. That was super kind. Thank you. Okay, reading is Arnold.
Ayla sat upright at the banquet table, admiring the silver platters of roasted meats and pies. She leaned forward and took a small piece of venison. Although this was her wedding feast, and the cooks had been busy preparing the feast, she only managed to nibble a little of the food. Get to the chopper. Or in this case, stables. Get to the stables. Nerves and excitement were getting the better of her, making it near impossible to swallow. No comment. She dropped a piece of venison onto her plate and took a sip of wine. Now and again, she turns slightly to glimpse at the prince from the corner of her eye. Handsome, proud, a happy face when he spoke with others. Oh, what she'd give to make him laugh. Ha 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 ha.
The prince's goblet was refilled more times than necessary. Each time he slammed it down on the table, a young page came running to serve him more. Ayla took slow sips from her own goblet, wondering if the prince would be sober enough to consummate their union. Like his son, King Lucan drank goblet after goblet, while Purple took ownership of the race. Well done.
Purple got a point, yes. Kay coming in second. It's the mama's mama in third, oh my. Good job.
Yes, well, on with the next. Queen Thalia, on the other hand, sat straight as an arrow, ready to fire away from its bow, her turned down mouth etching unhappiness. Once or twice she called her lady-in-waiting and spoke to the woman with her hand covering her mouth, all the while fixing Ayla with an icy glare. Evander pulled his head back and laughed, bringing Ayla out of her thoughts. The prince had given up calling the page to serve the wine. He'd taken the picture and was serving himself at a steady speed. Ayla gazed down at her trembling hands, her mind dwelling on her marriage. "You're trembling, my dear," her father said, stretching his hand to take hers. "Things will be fine." Ayla turned to face her father, who was sitting on her left. "I know they will, father." "Your mother's hands trembled at our wedding too," the old man went on to say. "But I reassured her that we'd be happy together. And we were." The old king's eyes glistened. "She made a beautiful bride, and so do you, my love. You're the spitting image of her." Ayla couldn't help the lump forming in the back of her throat. If only her mother had lived, she would have told her what to expect from marriage and how to please her husband. "I'm going to miss you, Papa," she said. "And swimming in the sea and collecting driftwood and riding along the beaches and walking on the golden sand and the smell of the salty air and—" Her father chuckled. "But you have the forest here, and trees are a source of life. We're lucky to unite our two kingdoms."
I know. Isn't that the reason I accepted this marriage? The king released her hand. I'm counting on you to give me a castle full of grandchildren. The more, the merrier. Maybe we'll start with just the one. She laughed, turning to observe her husband. And maybe one child would be their lot. If Orvander continued with his coldness, they might not even have that. But he needed a son to reign after him. Gross old people phrases for 500. I'll take anal bum covers for 600. Ayla sighed and smoothed down her wedding gown. The material clung to her damp palms. In a few hours, she would have to fulfill her duty. Despite the heat in the large room, a shudder ran through her. In the eyes of the Lord, she was now a married woman and had to consummate the marriage. Come, my son, the queen called. You must dance with your wife. No, I meant the castle full of grandchildren. Oh, yeah, that too. That too. I'd rather not, Mother. You know I'm no good at dancing. Aelia stared at the prince. He hated dancing. He hated walking. He hated talking. She wondered what he did like apart from drinking. Dance with your wife now, the queen hissed while maintaining a broad smile on her face. Evander pushed back his chair and took Aelia's hand. His eyes softened, no doubt remembering his promise. The young woman stumbled behind her husband to where the musician stood. With a nod of the head, the prince bade the musicians play a livelier tune. The minstrels plucked their lutes, and a delightful melody filled the room, covering the clamor of the feast. Okay, well, we know they're playing lutes, so definitely not the 19th century. Oh my. Purple, winning again. Quite the upset, I would say. Stealing points from others. Amlas coming in second. And, of course, once more, Stunt Mama's Mama in third. Well done. Race number 11, Marble Canyon. Polish those balls, get them ready. 60 seconds starts now. Evander swung his bride round to face him, his lips fixed in a stubborn pout. They swayed backwards and forwards in time to the music, and Ayla began to enjoy herself when Evander's foot slammed down on her dainty slippers. Ouch. Fuba. Hello. The young woman swallowed down a scream and gazed up at the prince. Not a word passed his lips. Not an apology. Nothing. They carried on dancing until he trod on her foot once again. Do you still want to carry on dancing? He asked. Maybe not, she replied, certain now he'd deliberately stepped on her toes. Like I said earlier, I'm not a good dancer. He bowed low, then pulled away in a tight-lipped silence. Hobbling, Ayla returned to their table. Evander, her mother exclaimed when her son slouched down on his chair and emptied his goblet. I saw that. Don't forget what you promised. A look of puzzlement crossed Ayla's face. That same remark. I don't understand why your mother keeps on about this promise thing, she dared ask the prince. There's a lot you don't understand. And? He wouldn't get away with brushing her off again. And nothing. But the prince rose and headed to a bench where a group of young knights were guffawing. He laughed with them, downing more wine. Now and again, he turned to give her a scornful grin, but most of his attention was with the group of young men. Ayla spotted Thalia staring at her son, fingers drumming on the edge of the table. The wedding celebrations passed all too quickly. Darkness had descended, and the meal had drawn to an end. Apart from the disastrous dance where Evander had crushed her foot, and the Queen's insinuations about a promise, the reception had been pleasant enough. Thank you for the lurk, Purple. I sense an affair coming in this novel. It's gonna be something. But yeah. Amlas is right. The prince is a jerk. King Lucan and his wife rose from their seats. The queen inclined her head to the prince and left the hall alongside her husband. Evander staggered to his feet and grabbed the back of his chair to keep his balance, while Stunt Mama's mama won the last race. Or not the last race, but the most recent race. As we all go, yeah, he gay. Stunt Mama's mama, followed by Amlas, and then Kay. Seems to be the same group of people here. Interesting. Did you hack the game by chance? Race number 12. Coming right up. I almost clicked join again. I don't know how I haven't managed it so far, but I'm very happy with myself. Let me go sidebar to yell at my marble. Please do. Yell away. I shall leave you in the good care of your maid, dear wife, he said, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. I shall join you later. Aelia presented a brave face, trying to accept the sudden misery that had fallen upon her. The prince didn't seem in possession of his faculties. What if too much wine made him aggressive? Already nervous about her wedding night, she didn't need this extra worry. If only the alliance between their two kingdoms could have been done in another way. Shall we go, my lady? Sybil waited patiently while Ayla watched her husband down yet another goblet of wine. With a heavy heart, Ayla followed the maid out of the banquet hall and to the staircase. Its spiral steps wound tightly upwards to the next floor. She had no idea where she was going. Apparently, Sybil did. In general, Ayla always saw the bright side of things. But tonight, within the dark walls of the castle, with her family-in-law barely making her feel welcome, and with her father returning home the next morning, optimism had abandoned her. In a flash, she shook her head. No doubt the emotions of the day. With her wedding night over, she'd feel better. Her family-in-law, no doubt stressed out by the organization of the marriage, could account for their indifference. Things would fall into place the next morning. So young. So naive. The princess entered a spacious bedroom containing two beautiful tapestries with a huge
coffer in the far corner. A four-poster bed with an ornate headboard dominated the room. Garlands of flowers entwined the tied-back curtains around it. The immaculate white sheets had been scattered with showers of red rose petals. Won't be needing those. Despite their rich scent adding a romantic touch to the moment, to Ayla they looked like drops of blood, a reminder of what was to come. How could you be so optimistic one moment and so dreadful the next? It must be exhausting. She swallowed hard, knowing she had to give the prince an heir. Their two families expected that. A son to unite the two kingdoms. Sybil lifted the crown from Ayla's head while another maid slipped off her veil and unwound her curled braids. The princess gazed around her bedchamber while the two young women unlaced her gown and removed it. I have prepared warm water for you, my lady, if you would allow me to bathe you. That will be fine, Sybil. You can take leave with the other servants. I'd like to bathe alone. Not going to comment about having someone bathe you, because we already finished the other book. So, just going to leave that there. Kay, coming in first. Catbox, taken second. And Verda, coming in third place. Ba-ba-da-ba. All right, race number 13, Emerald Downs, starting next. Sybil curtsied, a puzzled look on her face. But you can return in a while to help me dress for the night, Ayla added, hoping Sybil wouldn't push the matter further. Now was not the moment for her maid to discover she was a mermaid. Will that be all, my lady? Sybil's voice interrupted Ayla's thoughts. Her crown had been set on the coffer. Her gown had been folded and draped on a nearby chair. That will be fine, thank you. She heard herself reply in spite of her nervousness. The maid gone, Ayla prepared to bathe, grateful for a little time alone. She needed a short moment to prepare herself. Not simply her body, more so her mind. And then, there was a break in the story. I guess we're not going to find out about the bath. Wait, does water make her turn to mermaid? Yes. So, her mother was from the sea as a mermaid. She married her father, the person who became her father, who was from the land, hoping that the two, things would work out together. So basically, her mermaid genes, if you will, just passed on, or got passed along to Ayla. Why is OBS telling me welcome to the chat room? That's not concerning at all. It does that. Yeah, I know, but it weirds me out. Because I'm like, did something happen? There's no crash? Good. Excellent. All right. You just usually blame Twitch. Yeah, I would too. Sounds about right. All right, break's over. Let's see what happens. Sybil returned a little later to prepare her for bed. The maid had arrived with 2 other servants. They removed the linen that had been draped in the bath and carried the tub from the chamber while Sybil massaged a sweet-smelling oil all over Ayla's body. Ooh, I would like a sweet-smelling oil. She's getting all the good treatment. Jeez. Phoenix. Taking a win. Well done. And then, of course, Stunt Mama's Mama. And cats. Wonderful. Wunderbar. Well, she is the pretty, pretty princess. This is true. What a life. Such joy and misery all at the same time. All right. Race number 14 is ready for you. Good luck. The scent of the oil filled the room, and the maid's massage had warmed her body. Thank you, Sybil. The maid bowed and left the bedchamber, leaving Ayla dressed in a loose white nightgown. Cool to the skin, the garment hung off the princess's shoulders, making her shiver more from anxiety than the cold. Ovander's strange behavior had haunted her since she'd left the banquet. Was he upset that she would disappoint him? He no doubt had a lot of experience in making love, whereas she was still a virgin. Her excitement of earlier was giving way to nerves. Without a warm cloak to cover her shoulders, Ayla headed to the large fireplace where huge logs burned peacefully, releasing a mellow glow. She gazed into the flames and warmed her outstretched hands. Apart from the distant laughter and music that floated up the spiral staircase, the silence in the bedchamber deafened her. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Everyone except her. And maybe the prince. Oh no, your Tangia person is very naked. Although you have gloves on, so at least you have gloves. There's that. The bedroom door opened and slammed shut, making the young woman jump. She carried on, staring into the fire, rubbing her hands together. The sound of her heart pounding in her temples overrode the banquet music and laughter, until she caught the prince's footsteps approaching. 2 strong hands came down on her shoulders, and Ayla stumbled forward, her fingers clasping the front of her delicate nightgown. Ovander stopped her from falling and slipped her clothing from her shoulders. Ayla shut her eyes tight and swung her long shut her eyes tight and swung her long hair forward to cover her breasts while her hands hid down below, trying to shake off the apprehension settling over her like a cloud. A long silence drew out, and Ayla wondered if he was examining her, asking himself if he would be happy with what he'd gained from their alliance. She'd opened her eyes and caught him staring. So, my lovely wife, he began, tilting his head back and letting his gaze roll down. Gosh darn it, I looked up. Letting his gaze roll down his nose. Let us do our duty. Ayla shuddered. We both know what is expected of us. His voice sounded nervous, his hands hesitant. Head bent, Ayla gazed at her bare feet, anticipating Ovander's next move. After a few seconds, she took a quick peek over her shoulder to see him kick out at some loose kindling. She quickly turned to observe the fire once again, heat rising to her face when he stopped behind her. A finger trailed down the middle of her back, and Ayla's skin tightened, a sour taste invading her mouth. She wanted to flee the bedroom, run to her father, but she somehow managed to control herself and remain quiet. Kay. Well done. And Phoenix. And Verda. Good job. Only 2 races remain. The paperclip is up next. Never underestimate the paperclip. Ovander sighed. Right. Let's get this over with. Ayla bit down her disappointment. Not what she'd expected a husband to say to his wife. He took her arm and led her to the bed covered with the red petals, a symbol of fertility. Heaven forbid if she was barren and couldn't give her husband a son. She dreaded to think how he would react. While Ovander removed his clothes, Ayla pulled her hair forward over her breasts once again. She'd always been proud of the length of her locks, even more so tonight. They covered her body like a soft blanket. The prince took her hand and pushed her gently onto the mattress. Ayla made no protest. Their marriage had to be consummated, and she trusted the prince knew what to do. She only hoped he'd be gentle. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes Chapter 2. It does make you wonder, though, if they did it Ovander again. Oh, stop it. I could not resist. The answer is likely no. Come on, it was funny. It was a dad joke in an adult-rated way. I wonder if he got it up with a go-get-em attitude. I don't know. Hope they left some of that massage oil to help loosen things up. All right, race 15, taken by Emless. Verticat followed in second, and Stunt Mama's Mama in third. One more race. Seems creepy enough that he has been with women. I mean, that's the assumption we got from that one sentence in the story. They don't exactly, we don't really get any details about if that's literally the case. It's just Ayla's assumption, I guess. Like, this is the way it is, kind of thing. Just because the chick thinks he's gotten around doesn't mean he has. Yeah, it's all assumptions. And if he's always got an attitude like that, then maybe not. All right. Let me see. We're going to do one more chapter. Amlas, if you could let me know in like 15 minutes, because I'll want to make sure I run the ads before they show up. But let's go ahead and get started with Chapter 3. Thank you. The early morning sun peeped over the tall forest trees. A new day with new hopes and a new life. Yesterday, Ayla had gone to bed a maiden. This morning, she'd risen a woman. She'd only hoped the night had taken away the hostility of the previous day, and that Ovander would consider her differently now. King Sayer's hands shook as he rested them on his daughter's shoulders. "Goodbye, Ayla," he murmured in her ear, "and thank you." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves in the treetops. A roll of thunder rumbled in the far distance, promising rain. King Sayer raised his head to the sky and pulled a face. "I have to go. It would be best to get to the mountains and into Seria quickly." Ayla clung to her father, breathing in his scent, something she might not do for a long time. "Oh, Papa, I can't believe you're leaving." "You'll be fine," he whispered, taking her hands in his and placing a cool kiss on her forehead. "And don't forget, you can visit often." Ayla's like, I could just come with you right now, probably. I don't think he would mind. And then just like stay for ever. Ayla held back her emotions. She knew this alliance was necessary and had been proud of fulfilling her part of the matrimonial engagement. The prince had been gentle, helping her overcome her anxiety, relieved, no doubt, by accomplishing their duty too. Queen Thalia stepped forward. "I thought we'd visit Saria in a few days," she said, smiling at Sayer. "It would be beneficial for the people to be acquainted with the newlyweds. After all, they hold the destiny of our two kingdoms." "It would be an honor," Sayer replied, giving a slight bow. "Would that please you, my dear?" the queen asked, turning to Ayla and touching her arm. Ayla blinked rapidly, attempting to process what the queen had just said and the way she'd shown affection by patting her arm. What a complete change of character. "That would be lovely, thank you." "Good. That's settled then." Ayla gave her father one last embrace before Sayer mounted his horse and headed out of the courtyard with his royal escort. Sad yet excited at the thought of seeing her father soon, Ayla watched the party trot away. Her father grew smaller and smaller until he remained a speck on the horizon. Only then did she turn to her husband. "What shall we do today?" Ayla asked. She wanted to share more time with the prince. He'd left her room immediately after their consummation, and she hadn't even seen him at breakfast, putting his absence down to tiredness due to the late night feasting and the intimate time they'd spent. Nothing. I thought we could do something together. Knowing she would return to Syria before a brief stay, Ayla wanted something special to do with her husband. Continue their good entente. Entente? Entente. That. Why don't you take Ayla riding? His mother suggested. Show her our lovely kingdom. The married couple stared at each other, a challenge hanging in the air. Ayla held Ovander's gaze and her breath, hoping he would agree. Arms crossed high across his chest, the prince fixed his wife, lips pressed together in a thin line. The queen coughed, and Ovander snapped out of his daze. Of course, he said, glancing at his mother. I won't be a minute, Ayla called over her shoulder. I need to change into something comfortable. She lifted her skirts and rushed to the castle, while Ovander shouted orders to the stable boys to prepare their mounts. A short while later, saddled on Nova, her horse she'd ridden from Syria, Ayla headed away from the courtyard with Ovander at her side. Shallow hills lay peacefully against the sky, broken every so often with small thickets of trees. Further away, paths meandered up the slopes, branching in and around the forests. Numerous cottages sat in clumps throughout the vast fields. Crops billowed in the breeze. Sheep gazed in the meadows. It's beautiful here, Ayla said, bringing Nova to a halt on the top of a mound and taking in the view. The countryside glowed in the bright sunlight. It is, isn't it? I never get tired of riding and observing my kingdom, especially at the beginning of September when harvesting will soon begin. Same for me in Syria, Ayla replied. Not the harvesting part, of course, because we don't have crops, but I love galloping across our beaches and watching the boats bring in the fish. You'll see when we visit. Ovander sighed, and Ayla not only caught a hint of pride on his face, but also the way his body relaxed in the saddle. Less uptight now than back at the castle. Maybe they should do things together more often. Race you, Ayla said, and dug her heels into Nova's side. The mare galloped away in a flash, needing no more encouragement to run free. Gazing over her shoulder, Ayla caught the pout on her husband's face, not in the least bit happy. She, on the other hand, chuckled with delight. The wind rushed past her, releasing a few strands of hair from her braid, but she concentrated on the trail ahead, glad she'd worn tight breeches with a tailored jacket. She'd never been able to ride in gowns. They somehow got in the way. And she hated riding side saddle. No pleasure for her if she couldn't gallop the life out of her mount. Nova dashed through the velvety fern, jumping over knotted tree roots and fallen tree trunks. At times, Ayla rode low over her mount's neck, ducking underneath low branches, cold air burning her lungs. With every pound of Nova's hooves, fragrance from the undergrowth drifted in the air. A pleasant smell, so different from the salty air back home. Ayla loved riding. When the horse became her legs, they moved as one. She'd learned to ride from a young age, starting out with small ponies. If she believed her father's words, she'd mounted before she could walk properly. Hooves thudded behind her. She chanced another glance over her shoulder to see the prince only a short distance behind. Ayla dug her heels in again and gave up her control to the horse. Arriving back at the castle, the young woman slid off her mare. The stable groom hurried to help her down, but she waved him off and removed her gloves to run a hand along Nova's sleek neck. Ovander trotted into the courtyard, guiding his stallion with his knees until he brought it to a halt. He swung from his stallion's back and flung the reins to the groom. "Don't you ever do that again," he hissed, tapping his whip against his thigh. "Zarias, welcome to the party." Blood drained from Ayla's face when he grabbed her arm, deliberately digging his fingers into her skin. She let out a yelp and tried to pull her arm free, but the prince had no intention of releasing her. King Lucan emerged from the stables, planting his walking stick firmly on the ground. He came to stand by the couple, fondling the carved horse head on the top of his cane. "There you are, dear son. Your mother's looking for you. She said you'd know where to find her." A smile tugged at his sides of the prince's mouth as he stared up at the tower. He increased the pressure of his grip before releasing his wife's arm and striding away. "Everything all right?" the king asked, watching Ayla rub her arm. "The way you galloped into the courtyard, one wondered if the horse tail hadn't been on fire." Ayla grinned. "I raced Ovander." "And you won," the king butted in. "He's a sore loser, but he'll get over it." Ayla wasn't too sure. "Maybe his mother and I are to blame," Lucan added, rubbing the back of his neck. "Being an only child, we put him on a pedestal, giving in to his every wish, letting him win whenever we played together." Ayla stared at the king. She was an only child too, but didn't consider herself spoiled or moody when she didn't get her way. "I can see from the frown on your face that you're confused. I'm not trying to defend my son's actions, and I do my best to be fair, but his mother has a certain hold over him." Walking to the castle, Lucan took Ayla's hand and slipped it into the crook of his arm. "Ah, the raising of a sociopath. Perhaps. You see, we had 4 children." His voice broke into a choke, "but the others never survived. They never made it past their 2nd birthday. So we gave all our attention to Ovander, making sure he only had the best. I suppose, in a way, we were trying to make up for our losses." A flicker of compassion fluttered within her. She found it heartwarming that the man had opened up to her. Did Lucan need to justify his son's actions, or did the old king need to talk to someone? "I'm sorry to hear you've had to go through such trauma," Ayla said, saddened by the king's words. "It must have been devastating." Lucan patted Ayla's hand. "We need to look to the future. Hopefully, you and Ovander will have a cascade of joyful children." "I'm sure we will." "Your Highness," someone called, rushing from the main door. My steward," Lucan explained. "I have to go." The king took his time walking to the castle, and Ayla strolled to the herb and medicinal plant garden, a sanctuary where nature flourished, a place where insects and birds thrived, a green haven of peace, where, in her own kingdom, she often ventured to check on the herbs and relax. Remember, folks, herbs. In the early September sun, Ayla spotted Sybil on her knees, cutting and placing herbs in her basket. The maid stopped now and again to straighten her back and to brush away a few strands of hair that had escaped from her coif. Like a hairnet bun thing? Coif? C-O-I-F? Ayla knew how backs and knees could ache. She spent a lot of time collecting herbs. Sybil. Start the ads. Thank you. All right, I'm going to pause the reading. And off we go. I will place my bookmark. While the ads are running, I will jot down the final race's winners. Amlas. Cats. And Phoenix. Well done, everybody. Quaff. Yeah, I think I pronounced it coif. Quaff. English language, I swear. It's so weird. Alright, so now, at some point, I have to figure out a suitable way to tabulate the results. Is that like a French versus English thing? I've always heard coif. Quaff. What is it? Let's start with that. I'm assuming it's something to hold your hair, but, like, is it a... I don't know. A calculator? Thank you, Amlas. Very helpful of you. It's more like reading everybody's names and then, you know, figuring out how much they have. It's like a bonnet. It's like a neck thing. It's a neck bonnet? You used it for... What? It's a hairstyle. Perfect. Cool. Let's just go with that. Y'all are confusing me. Oh, boy. So, cats has 3, 6... So cat, for example, has a total of 13 points. And that's all I've gotten because the ads are over. Thick skull cap worn under armor. Oh. Okay. Well, there we go. You know, and I put my bookmark down to remember what line I was on, and then I moved it without looking, so... oh, here we go. Sybil, she called and hurried to her maid. My lady. Sybil got to her feet and brushed the dry dirt from her clothes. Oh, Sybil, please call me Ayla. Sybil lowered her gaze. That wouldn't be proper, my lady. You're princess. I insist. But the queen wouldn't like it. Ayla shrugged. She doesn't like me anyway, and makes no effort in hiding it. I wouldn't worry about that, the maid said, wiping her hands on a cloth. She doesn't like anybody. Well, at least use my name when we're not in public. That would still be disrespectful. Ayla reached for her maid's hand. I wasn't brought up to flaunt my status and look down on people. My mother died in childbirth, so I was looked after by my nursemaid and wet nurse. At times, I even ate with them in the kitchens.
Sybil stared at her feet. Look at me, Sybil. Although I was born a princess, I'm just an ordinary woman. And I'd like to think of us as more than princess and her maid. Besides, you're not that much older than me. If you're sure, I am. Now, would you mind showing me around? F the queen? Damn right. Bitch. Let's see. The English accent pronunciation for coif is coif. Or quaff. Quaff? The first syllable sounds like the word coy. The second is F, rhyming with foif. The word is derived from the French, but the English pronunciation varies from the original French, which sounds like quaff. Well, you know the Brits don't like the French. So true. Quaff. They love to say French words as wrongly as possible. We. Anyway, carrying on with the quaff, koi, coif. Sybil tossed the cloth into a basket. What would you like to see? The castle. Ovand and I have already wandered in the gardens. Carrying the basket, Sybil led Ayla to the kitchen where she left her herbs on the table. They began their tour, and Ayla noted everything the maid pointed out, amazed at how much the young woman knew. They moved from room to room, right up to the sleeping quarters. You know, I shouldn't say all French people, because our author is French, and she's actually a very nice person. She's quite marvelous, actually. But yes, there has been a running, like, French versus English, English versus French thing for a long time. I think soccer, football, is the thing to blame. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. You know, I never knew what type of accent you had. Whoops. Wait. What do you mean? It goes back way farther than that. Well, I'm sure, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I just know that soccer, in the past 50 years, has certainly been part of it. Anyway. How long have you been working here? Ayla asked as they left the last room on the second floor and headed down the corridor. I mean, I have no clue where your accent is. Okay, so I was born in the UK. I lived in 2 different parts of the UK, not that it's a very big place. But when I was 16, I moved to Iowa, which is where I live now. And I've pretty much been here ever since. Now, the accent that you grow up with doesn't really cement itself until you're a little bit older. So, for example, my brother, who is 4 years older, by the time he came to the States, his English accent was basically, it's going to be with him forever. I was just young enough where I could start to kind of switch it, if you will. But that's why sometimes when I speak, some people are like, oh yeah, I could sense there was a little difference in there. And then other times they're like, I wouldn't have guessed. Had no idea.
But when I'm reading stories and using characters and stuff like that, or having kind of that narrator voice, if you will, I tried to be as... what am I looking for? I tried to do the best I can with enunciation instead of just talking just like to a person in a room, you know, whatever, a friend. I do my best with enunciation. That way everyone can hear what I'm saying. But yes, I will always say herb with an H, because herb, there's no such thing as herbs. The Anglo-French War started in 1109, and no one told them it was over. Damn. We should probably put up a poster or something. That's why there are American notes that confuse me. Could be. I thought it was like me being the weirdo that reads in British accents kind of deal. No. Depends on the book. Force a hydrate? Sure. I don't have much of this left. All right. We've only got about a page and a half left, and then we'll be done with the chapter. How long have you been working here? They headed down the corridor. 6 summers, if I remember well. I was a chambermaid at the age of 14, but I've come a long way since. How so? Good night, Kay. Sleep well. Well, after 2 years, I got promoted to cook's help. A much better position, even if I shouldn't say so. She gave a quick glance over her shoulder. I didn't mind lighting the fires, but emptying everyone's chamber pots? And now I'm your lady-in-waiting, and I only have you to look after. I can't believe my luck. Ayla patted Sybil's arm. We're both lucky, and I'm glad Queen Thalia chose you. I still can't understand why. So many other ladies who would have been more suited to you. Ladies more acquainted with the role of serving royalty. Maybe the Queen wanted me to have someone my age. She no doubt thought I'd be lonely so far from home. And talking about home, my father has invited the royal family to Saria. I'd like to have you with me. Sybil pressed her fingers to her smiling lips. I'd love to come, Ayla. I've never been further than my village. 'Twill be an honor. Ayla smiled. By forming a bond with her mage, she hoped to find a person she could trust enough to confide in. Call it a sixth sense, but Ayla had the impression she could trust Sybil. She'd take it slow, though, build up a relationship before questioning the maid about the royal family and divulging her secret. Sybil began to descend the stairway, but Ayla reached for her arm. What about up there? She pointed. Aren't you going to show me the tower? Oh, it's restricted. Only the Queen is allowed access to those private chambers. Ayla gave one last glance upwards and descended the spiral stairway, her mind flooding with bizarre thoughts. She needed answers. Push the matter further. When she could be sure of the young woman's loyalty, then she could ask about the person up there, because in her mind, there had been someone in the tower. On the ground floor, Sybil led Ayla outside and across the courtyard to the chapel. Ayla couldn't help gazing up. Some kind of force pulled her towards the tower, attracting her attention, willing her to take notice of it. She didn't know if it was a good or bad thing. A cloud floated in front of the sun, blocking out its warmth, and Ayla shuddered when an icy shiver tiptoed down her spine. Definitely not good. And that, my friends, concludes chapter 3. So even though we're tabulating points over the long haul, let's at least see who is the mini winner for tonight's stream. Verticat coming in third. Stunned Mama's Mama taking second, which means Kay first place, even though she's gone. Good job, Kay. You know, I hadn't thought of this, but should I do like extra bonus points for the like how you place within each Grand Prix? Wait, why don't you just use this rather than all the other races? You know, I think that's what I was going to do. I just kind of realized that as I said that last part out loud. I was literally just going to say, oh, who's on the podiums? But it didn't even click in my head. So, with that said, oh, okay, good. I still got it. All right, let's try this again. Marble race winners. And instead, I will use the date. So, we've got second, first, second, third. First place, we've got K. Second is Stunt Mama's Mama. I'm going to need you guys to have shorter names, please. And Verda in third. Boo, now my wins don't count at all. Pout. Well, unfortunately, you only had 9 points in the accumulation, so... Stunt Mama gave me that name. This is true, she did. I shall talk to her. Oh, boy. All right, so let's keep that safe. I have nothing if it feels better. I don't know. It kind of depends on the person. Okay, there we go. Shutting the window. Just shorthand, like Stun Mama X2 times 2. Yeah. We'll figure it out. Not too worried. Okay. Had 9, now 0. That's right. Get over it. Just kidding. Just teasing. Let's take a look-see who we have online. So yes, Thursday, hell diving. And then Sunday, just make sure I don't have anything crazy going on. Sunday the 7th. Yep. We'll be back to reading. And it'll be great. Reading and racing. Racing and reading. Oh, let's see. Well, Purple did say she was going to be online, and she is. She's playing The Hunt Begins with Allie and Fubar, and she's doing a giveaway. So I think it makes sense that we go say hi. Pearl Harbor Day, yes. Pearl Harbor Day was also the day that I enlisted. My first day of enlistment. Yeah. It's a crazy day. All right. If you don't mind copying the raid message. We will go say hi to Purple Pookie. Thank you so much for being here tonight and letting me read to you and chatting with you. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you again. But until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Take care.